Chara, I'm just.
Okay, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Dhyananjana Shalakaya Takshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Tadamayam Tadanti Swapadantikam Vandekam Shri Gurun Shri Utapatakabalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Shri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunathan
Tam Sajiva
Sadvaitam Swavadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Bhakto Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Davaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanjakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhayeva cha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Shashwin, for reciting the wonderful Mangalachara. Hare Krishna, Bhuta Bhavana Das Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Dandvat Pranam Prabhuji. Please accept our humble obeisances on behalf of everybody who have joined the group and who are about to join Prabhuji. Prabhuji, this is ISKCON Eldoret. I won't take a long time introducing everybody to you, but we have devotees from all over Kenya. So we have centers in Nakuru, in Juja, in Nairobi, and Kisumu. So there are devotees who have joined from all over Kenya. And it's an international group, Prabhuji. So there are devotees from India as well and devotees from England as well. We record our sessions so more devotees can have can listen to our lectures and benefit. Prabhuji, thank you very much for your time. ISKCON Eldoret is 3 years old now, and we started in the lockdown, and we started with Bhagavad Gita, and we finished that, and now we have embarked our journey on Srimad Bhagavatam. So we meet every day at the same time, same link, 7 days. So depending on, it's a dynamic group, so sometimes there are 10 people, sometimes there are 15, sometimes there are more. So, but we meet every day at the same time. So thank you for sparing your time for us today on such a short notice. And I also welcome all the other devotees who have joined for the first time. Thank you very much for joining. We meet every day on the same link, so feel free to join in. I'd like to introduce our speaker for the day today, Bhuta Bhavana Prabhuji. And he's been practicing Bhakti Yoga for over 25 years. And he began while studying at London School of Economics, where he graduated in philosophy and economics. And he was interested in the Eastern philosophy and meditation, and he naturally got attracted towards the Bhakti tradition. And he's been engaged in speaking at leading institutions like Oxford and Cambridge. And the demand for his insights then expanded within Europe, India, Canada, across the US, and now in Kenya. We are expecting Prabhuji to share more of his time with us as well. And he shares presentations that take the wisdom of Bhakti into the field of practical transformative applications, which is what is needed now, because we need to apply all the principles that we learn in our lives in leaderships, in relationships, and personal spiritual development. Prabhuji enjoys sharing penetrating insights. So be ready with all your questions. Also with inspiration and a clarity of vision that helps others to navigate other journey in the healthy and lasting way. He's also a mentor to a number of professionals, both in London and globally, many of whom he has trained and guided for many, many years. And some of our speakers, he's been a Shiksha Guru to them as well. He also recently launched the Ed Enoba podcast with the TEAM personality model and the unique self-esteem spectrum framework for understanding self-value and how to develop it. So he has done a lot and is doing a lot. So we are so grateful to have you, Prabhuji, with us. Prabhuji, we usually recite the Mangalacharan before we start, and that is what we have done. Then we read the text 28 and 29. We read the translation and purport. And then we hand over to our mentor. Prabhuji, how do we do it? Today, how would you like to take over, Prabhuji? Prabhuji, you're muted.
No, you can, yes, so what I'd like you to do, yes, so read the verse as you do before, read the purport as before, and then I will speak after that.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you very much. So our engine, Prabhuji, is a 6-year-old Shashwin, who has a natural affinity towards reading the Sanskrit. So we'll ask him to read, to recite the shloka. So Shashwin, are you ready? With Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and then text 28 and 29.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Rashtraprayesva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagat Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Vrita Vrati Nahi Maya Chandam Sri Guravot Gnaya Anita Nirvalikena Grihitam Chanusasanam Bharata Vyapadesina Yamna Yartas Chadbrad Darshita Drishyate Yatra Dharmadi Sri Sudradi Virapyuta. Hari Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Shashwin. Arya Govind Prabhuji, would you like to do the word to word?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Yes, thank you, Mataji. Dhrita Bhatena, under a strict disciplinary vow.
He
certainly. Maya.
Certainly.
Would all like to repeat, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji, but they are muted, so you continue and we'll repeat after you.
Okay. Maya by me,
Maya by me,
Maya by me,
Chandamsi, the Vedic hymns,
Chandamsi, the
Chandamsi,
Vedic
the Vedic
hymns,
hymns,
Gurava, the spiritual masters,
Va, the spiritual
Spiritual
masters,
Agnaya, the sacrificial fire,
Agnaya, the
the
sacrificial fire,
sacrificial fire,
Manita, properly worshipped,
Manita,
properly worshipped,
Nirvyalikena,
Nirvalikena,
Nirvyali,
without pretense,
without pretense,
Grihitam cha,
Pritam cha,
also accepted,
also accepted,
also accepted,
Anushasanam,
Anushasana,
traditional discipline,
traditional discipline,
Bharata, the Mahabharata,
Bharata, the Mahabharata,
Japadeshena,
Padeshana,
by compilation of,
by compilation of,
he certainly,
he certainly,
Amnaya Artha,
Amnaya,
import of disciplic succession,
import of discipline,
disciplic succession,
Cha and
Cha,
Pradarshita,
Pradarshita,
properly explained,
properly explained,
Drishyate,
Drishyate,
by what is necessary,
by what is necessary,
Yatra, where,
Yatra, where,
Dharmadihi,
Dharma,
path of religion,
path of religion,
Sri Shudra Adibihi Api,
Sri Shudra,
even by women, Shudras, etc.
even by women,
Shudras, etc.
Uta spoken.
Uta spoken.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Lavanga Prabhuji, would you please read the translation and purport? Prabhuji, are you able to read it? Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, you're muted. Kindly unmute.
Yes, I just asked one devotee to bring me the Bhagavatam. I've got it now.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So text number 28, yeah?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Oh, you brought me the wrong one. It's Canto 1. Oh, sorry, you brought me the wrong one.
It's okay, Prabhuji. We can ask another devotee in the interest
Yes.
of time. Peter Mulai, Prabhuji, do you have the Srimad Bhagavatam with you?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Yeah.
I have, under strict disciplinary vows, unpretentiously worshipped the Vedas, the spiritual masters, and the altar of sacrifice. I have also abided by the rulings and have shown the import of disciplic succession through the explanation of the Mahabharata, by which even women, Sudras, and others, friends of the twice-born, can see the path of religion. Let's do the purport.
Yes, Prabhuji.
No one can understand the import of the Vedas without having undergone a strict disciplinary vow and disciplic succession. The Vedas, spiritual masters, and sacrificial fire must be worshipped by the desiring candidate. All these intricacies of Vedic knowledge are systematically presented in the Mahabharata for the understanding of the woman class, the laborer class, and the unqualified members of Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Vaishya families. In this age, the Mahabharata is more essential than the original Vedas.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, we hand over to you now.
Okay. Thank you so much. So Let's go do a quick prayer. So this is a really wonderful aspect of the teaching of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So where we are in the story or in the pastime, because these are real events that have taken place historically, what we are doing is we are understanding more about the lamentation of Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva is actually is an incarnation of God, an incarnation of Krishna. His guru is Narada Muni. And in the previous verses to this, you hear that he's done so much out of compassion for the ignorant masses. He has divided different Vedic literature, different verses, so that people can understand and achieve the goal of life. And in this particular verse, this is actually his own thoughts. He's saying this to himself. He's actually saying, I've done so many things, but there's something that's not quite right. Yeah. So in these two verses, first canto, chapter 4, text number 28 and 29, he says, I have under strict disciplinary vows, unpretentiously worshipped the Vedas, the spiritual master, and the altar of sacrifice. I've also abided by all the rulings and have shown the import of disciplic succession through the explanation of the Mahabharata, by which even women, Shudras, and others, friends of the twice born, can see the path of religion. So in the verse prior to this, we know that he feels dissatisfied and he's beginning to reflect because he knows the essence of religion. So in the previous verse, he talks about his dissatisfaction. In the verse after this, he talks about how he feels incomplete. Though I myself am fully equipped with everything required by the Vedas. So this is really important. This is the first thing we have to understand, that satisfaction means Krishna. Yeah. So you have an incarnation of God who is feeling dissatisfaction. Now think about that. We know that Krishna is complete. This pastime is to show just how serious it is that one abide by the laws of Krishna, by the rules of Krishna, by the desire of Krishna. Satisfaction comes when Krishna is satisfied. That is a real lesson to take away from this particular pastime. Satisfaction comes when Krishna is satisfied. And Krishna is satisfied when the guru is satisfied. Now, there's more to it than this. Here, Vyasadeva is feeling dissatisfied. What does he do? He turns to guru for answers. Sometimes people will try to figure everything out by their own mind. But our tradition is for the important questions, tadvidi paripratena, pariprasnena sevaya, upadikshanti jnanam, jnaninas tatvadashinaha. For the serious questions in life, one has to approach a bona fide spiritual authority. This pastime is so powerful for a number of reasons. In this verse, Vyasadeva is listing all the things that he's already done. And the list is substantial, right? So let's go through this step by step. So I've been under strict disciplinary vows. So that's the first point, that he's not whimsical. He has been disciplined. He has lived a self-disciplined life in order to achieve a higher state of consciousness. Why is that important? It's important because if we want to be used as an instrument of Krishna, we first have to have self-control and self-possession before we can surrender. It's like this. If someone doesn't have control of themselves, they can't then do what someone else is telling them to do. You see, if a person can't control themselves, there's no question of them being able to follow someone else's instructions, because they won't be able to give themselves to the instructions of another person if they can't even keep themselves under control. So in the same way, in Krishna consciousness, we're trying to come to the point of full self-surrender. But to come to that point of full self-surrender, we first have to be in control of ourselves. And therefore the Nectar of Instruction says this, Vacho vegam mansakroda vegam, jivam vegam udarapasta vegam, etam vegam yovishetadira, sarvam apimam privivimshashishyat. One who is able to control the urges of the tongue, belly, genitals. Right? First verse of the Nectar of Instruction. That's what's emphasized. The most powerful thing, or therefore one of the most powerful things that any devotee can do in their life, is to practice self-discipline joyfully. What is it to practice self-discipline joyfully? When we practice self-discipline joyfully, you are actually developing self-mastery. When an individual decides, I'm going to follow what the guru says, what the scripture says, what the sadhus say, and when they do that consistently, you are like a prisoner who is walking out of the prison. You're like a prisoner who is actually leaving the prison bars, leaving the jail cell, and you're walking into freedom. Now, from this, we can understand something very powerful, and that is most of the world is not free. Most of the world is not free. Most people do not have access to much of their free will because most people are so much programmed by the patterns, by the trends, by the fads, that literally they just are bombarded with one type of command, advertising, trend, whatever it is, and they just follow blindly one pattern after another. But someone who is trying to be Krishna conscious is moving in a superior direction. So this first point, Vyasadeva has recognized that he's been strict in terms of following vows. Next point, he says, he unpretentiously worshipped the Vedas. This is also very, very important. Unpretentious. It's one thing to do an activity. It's another thing to do an activity with a very sincere and pure and genuine motive. You see? So there is the behavior and there is the bhava. Two people can sweep a room. One person may sweep the room thinking this room belongs to Krishna, so I'm sweeping it for his pleasure. Another person sweeps the room, they think I'm getting paid, I'm going to do this, I'll do it I'll do this as quickly as possible because I want the money. So both are doing the activity, but the consciousness is different. Prabhupada will give the example. He said in a time of war, someone kills another person. In peacetime, someone kills another person. But in a time of war, if you're an army soldier and you kill the enemy, you'll become recognized by the entire country. You'll be given a gold medal. But if in peacetime you kill someone, you'll be thrown into prison. It's the same activity, but there's a different purpose, a different consciousness. Here, Vyasadeva is explained that he's unpretentiously worshipped the Vedas. He's unpretentiously worshipped the spiritual master and the altar of sacrifice. That means he's engaged in these activities without ulterior motive. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu gives this very powerful verse that Prabhupada often talks about. Anya Bilasita Shunyam, Jnana Kama Danavritam, Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakti Uttama. That this devotional service must be what? It is an activity done favorably for the pleasure of Krishna, free of the desire for what? For karma or for jnana. Again, very powerful. An activity done favorably for Krishna's pleasure. That means that there's no other purpose behind the activity. And it is also interesting, it again echoes what the Srimad Bhagavatam says, that the devotional service must be ahoitukiya pratiyata yatmasu prasidati. That when we engage in service to Krishna, when we do it without ulterior motive, when we do it purely to please the person that we want to love, then something very special happens. What happens? If it's done for Krishna's pleasure, then you become pleased, you become satisfied. It must be unmotivated, uninterrupted, in order to completely satisfy the self. Isn't that amazing? The essence of religion, the essence of all religious paths, is to come to the point of serving Krishna with love, selflessly. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is actually the deep formula for happiness. There's only one formula for happiness. There's only one formula for happiness. And that is when the part and parcel serves the Supreme Person. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Mamai vamso jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana, manashishtani indriyani, prakritishtani kashati. Mama eva amsa. Krishna says, everyone is my amsa, my part and parcel. So think about this point very carefully. This is the secret to all success in Krishna consciousness. The secret to all success in Krishna consciousness is to remember the reality. The reality is that we're not separate from Krishna in the sense that we have a joined connection. We're a part of him. We're an individual, unique part and parcel of Krishna. Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. That means everyone's a unique individual, and at the same time, the same in quality as Krishna. So when we act in a way that pleases Krishna because we're part of him, then when he's pleased, we feel joy within. You see? And that is the real meaning of yoga. And this is why there are so many unhappy people on the planet. Because unless someone knows that you're only going to be happy when Krishna is pleased, right? Our satisfaction, it's to the degree that Krishna is pleased. When you're chanting Krishna's names, Krishna's happy that you're chanting. So you get some joy, you get some satisfaction inside. When you're hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna is pleased. Therefore, you get some joy, some satisfaction inside. When you're engaging in devotional service, Krishna is pleased. That's why you get some joy inside. Shushukam, kartam avyayam. Krishna explains that in the Bhagavad Gita. This is the formula for happiness. In other words, the fundamental principle of all happiness for all living entities is that by pleasing Krishna's senses, you will feel a deep or the deepest joy and satisfaction. This is how it works. And therefore, we can understand that in any society where the focus is on ignoring God, any society where the focus is on just trying to stimulate our material senses, meaning trying to just use the material body just for some kind of external activity, that kind of society is guaranteed to be filled with people who are unhappy. You see? And you know what the amazing thing is? The more that such people try to be happy, the more unhappy they become. Prahlad Maharaj, he talks about chewing the chewed. Now, there's a whole deep psychology here. And that is, think about this point. What happens when you do something that you think is going to make you happy and it doesn't really give you joy, but you don't know anything else? So what do you do? So then what you do is you try to do the same thing again in a more intense way, right? Because you think, oh, well, I tried it, but there's no other alternative. The only thing I can do is material. So let me try and do more material things and see if that makes me happy. And then it doesn't quite work. And so, okay, let me try and do even more intense material activity. So you're working harder for less and less and less. There's Einstein. He said the sign of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and again and expecting a different result, isn't it? This is revolutionary. If we think about this, this is revolutionary. See, what happens is when people aren't satisfied with something they're doing because it's material, instead of thinking, let me change the paradigm, let me try a different platform of activity, they just think, no, let me try a different material activity. You see, they don't realize it's not just that activity that's not going to satisfy you. It's the entire range of materialism that will not satisfy you. It's just like this. You know, you're in the sea and you're concerned, I keep getting wet. And so instead of trying to run after one fish, you decide, okay, I'm in the sea and I'm getting wet. So I'm going to stop running after the fish. If I run after the sharks, maybe there'll be a better solution. But someone has to point out, no. It's not about chasing fish in the sea or chasing sharks in the sea. If you want to stop being wet, you need to get out of the water. In other words, if we want transcendental happiness, if we want eternal happiness, deep happiness, full spiritual love, then we have to let go of the material platform and start dealing and acting on the spiritual platform. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the formula for spiritual happiness. It is simply to remember, I am part and parcel of Krishna. So the more that my activities bring him pleasure, the more that my activities will also bring me pleasure. Isn't that amazing? Your pleasure and Krishna's pleasure are one and the same. That's the formula for happiness. Happiness is when Krishna is pleased with the way that you're dealing, the way that you're living, and the way that you're acting. This is very, very powerful. In this verse, the Vyasadeva says, I've abided by the rulings and have shown the import of disciplic succession through the explanation of the Mahabharata. Very, very interesting. And in Prabhupada, in this purple, he says, in this age, the Mahabharata is more essential than the original Vedas. What does he mean by that? What he means by that is the summary or the essence of the Mahabharata, which is the Bhagavad Gita, which is also the conclusion of all the Vedas, the essence of all the Vedas. That is really important. What does Krishna say? Savasichaham Rishani Vishto Mata Smriti Gyanamapohanam Cha Vedescha Save Aham Eva Vedyo Vedantakrit Vedavit Eva Chaham. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. So the Bhagavad Gita is the essence of the Vedas. The Bhagavad Gita is a section of the Mahabharata. This conversation where Krishna and Arjuna, they're on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and Krishna is explaining so many wonderful things to Arjuna. He's clarifying all of Arjuna's doubts and helping him to understand what his true duty is. So this is very, very, very powerful. And by the way, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, they are itihasas. Okay, that means histories. Iti, thus, so iti ahasa, thus it happened. So they literally give historical events that have taken place upon this earth many thousands of years ago. So Vyasadeva, in this particular section of the Bhagavatam, he's demonstrating the humility of a disciple. He's demonstrating the humility of a disciple, the humility of a devotee. When he doesn't understand something, he will humbly approach someone who is spiritually qualified, and he will reveal his mind. For some reason, I've done all these different writings, and but for some reason, I'm still not satisfied. Sometimes our internal mood can be a sign of what we need to change in our external behavior. Krishna consciousness is a beautiful adventure. The idea here is very, very simple. If I want to experience the deep happiness and joy that every one of us are searching for, have been searching for, are always searching for, then the formula is very simple. I need to fine-tune my ability to please Krishna. I need to refine and improve my ability to please Krishna. And just by doing that one thing, all the magic will happen. There was a king, and he had a kingdom, and the king was very generous, which kings tend to be. So what the king did is he decided one day, I'm going to give a gift to every citizen of my kingdom. The king sent out his servants, go to the citizens, ask them, tell them, the king is giving something to everyone. They can ask what they want. Ask them what they want, and we'll arrange to give them. So different citizens asked for different things. When the servants of the king went to visit one Brahmana, which is a very simple living person, the person was very simple but very intelligent. He told the servants of the king, he said, you know what? All I want is that the king should come and visit me. That's all. And the servants, they said, are you sure? Like, the king's giving gifts to every member of his kingdom. You could ask for anything. Are you sure you just want the king to visit you? And they said, and the Brahmana said, yeah, I just want the king to visit me. The servants were thinking, I don't understand, but he could ask for so many things, riches, wealth, all these things. He's just asked for the king to visit him. Okay, if that's what you want. The servants went back to the kingdom, and they told the king, they said, we've been going around this kingdom, and different citizens, they're asking for different things, but there was this one strange person. There was this strange Brahmin, and we tried to convince him that he should ask for things. You're very wealthy and you're generous, but he insisted that all he wants is for you to go and visit him, king. And the king said, oh, if that's all he wants, okay, make the arrangements and I will go and visit him. So then the king's servants started thinking. They thought, yeah, we have to make the arrangement for the king to visit this person. The king is used to traveling along very beautiful, scenic, attractive areas of land. So the first thing the servants did, they thought, okay, so we have to make sure, we have to fix the road from the king's palace to the house of this Brahmana. Make it very smooth, beautiful flowers, very picturesque, because this is what the king is used to. And then they thought, when the king gets to the house of the Brahmana, what if he becomes hungry or thirsty? And they thought, we have to make sure that there's, in the house, there's the finest juices, berries, fruit, whatever, for the king. And they thought, the king, he's so used to being in very beautiful, opulent, palatial environments. So they decided we have to redo the Brahmana's house to make it, beautiful and opulent, so it's not below the standard that the king is used to. So basically, the Brahmana, by his desire, everything came. So much more than if he'd have asked for something small and limited himself. By asking for the king, everything else that was related to the king automatically came. I was thinking in my own life, so many times where I saw that by the mercy of Krishna, and especially through the association of devotees, so many opportunities and situations came that would not have come otherwise. And I saw more and more how, it's Krishna. Because when Krishna's there, everything else automatically comes. Krishna is the Shaktiman. He is the energetic. And this material world, everything is his energy. Aham savasya prabhavo, mata savam pravartate, iti matva bhajante mam, Bhuta Bhavana samamvitaha. Everything is coming from Krishna. Everything. Srila Prabhupada, he told one of his disciples, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, once, he said to him, Krishna, if he wants, he could give us the entire New York like this. That's what he said to him. He said, but would you know what to do with it? So it's a very powerful consideration that Krishna can give. Krishna does give. But we have to remember it's his energy and we have to use it in his service. And then if he's pleased, then you get even more. And what do I mean by you get even more? The whole point that people, the whole reason that people chase material things is because they're actually chasing inner happiness. You see? So what Krishna actually gives his devotee is the very thing that the entire world is running after, but no one ever gets. Everyone is running after deep happiness. No one's running after suffering. And no one is running after superficial happiness. In the Nectar of Devotion, in the introduction, Prabhupada says there is some happiness in the material world. He said so. He says, but it is chapala sukha, flickering. And sometimes Prabhupada will give the example, it's just like you have a drop of water in the desert. You're almost about to die. The heat is beating you. You're suffering, you're choking from thirst. And then someone puts a drop of water on your tongue. Can you really say that you're now happy? No. So one of the fundamentals of Krishna consciousness is to really give us a very honest, a very deep, a very profound, and actually life-changing clarity about what will truly make each and every one of us happy. See? Ladies and gentlemen, we've been lied to. In so many aspects of the material life, they're advertising so many things. The idea is that you just buy my product, you just buy my service, you'll be happy. Sometimes when you go online, even if you want to watch something on YouTube, a class or anything, they have the adverts first. You've seen this? You see the adverts? And so many times the adverts are for some get rich quick scheme. And the only person who gets rich from that scheme is the person who's selling the idea. And everyone else, they get poor quick. There's more get poor quick schemes than there are get rich quick schemes. You see? It's a real thing. And you can see how intelligent a person is by how much they have become convinced that because they're part of Krishna, part and parcel of Krishna, their happiness is guaranteed when Krishna's happy. Isn't that? It's a very powerful formula. It means that the more I try to please Krishna, the more I please Krishna, the more ecstasy and bliss I feel. This is very, very powerful. This is very, very valuable. This is very, very significant. I would like you to meditate on what I've said to you. Because if you understand this, if we understand this, our whole life will be changed from this one understanding. That my happiness is actually Krishna's happiness. And my dissatisfaction is actually when Krishna is dissatisfied. This is how the world works. This is how the reality works. This is how happiness really works. It is something quite extraordinary to really behold and really understand. I belong to Krishna. I'm part and parcel of Krishna. And whenever Krishna's pleased with me, I will feel deep joy. And whenever Krishna's not happy with what I'm doing, that will be the cause of my own sense of sadness. We know in the modern world that many people are very, very sad. We know in the modern world that many people are suffering from depression. Suicide is in the increase. We know in the material world that many people, most people are confused. And they don't know, they'll think to themselves, I'm doing all the things that the advert said I should do. And I'm still miserable. Why? They'll think that. And then sometimes they may say it, sometimes they may think, am I the only person who feels this way? And they'll be surprised. No, it is practically the nature of the material world. So we have a way out. We have a way out of this painful life of just running after one material thing after another. And even the thing that you get, even if you get it materially, it then leaves you. A friend of mine recently, his father passed away. And it was very interesting. His mother had passed away a few months earlier. And sometimes they talk about this. Sometimes the idea is that when a couple have been together for a very long time and then one passes away, the other loses their will to carry on. But imagine what's going to happen if we haven't developed a higher consciousness. All of these kind of suffering is inevitable. Prabhupada, he was once told by one doctor, they said to him, you have so many things wrong with your body that you should be screaming in pain. Prabhupada was transcendental to that bodily experience. It's a very, very powerful thing. We all are growing old. But if we perfect our Krishna consciousness, then it doesn't matter what the body's going through. You can be in deep spiritual ecstasy. But we have to walk on that journey. We have to walk in that direction. But we're lucky. Why are we lucky? Because we know how to do it. We know how to do it. How do we do it? It is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. Hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna, remembering Krishna, engaging in service to the deity, so many things, so many wonderful things. Serving, again, this verse, serving, but serving in what way? Sincerely, without any ulterior motive. Very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. So it's not just service. It is actually saying we want to serve Krishna with love. We want to serve Krishna with sincerity. And we want to please his devotees in that same mood. And then all kinds of magic happens. It's so beautiful, this Krishna consciousness, that in one sense, you can literally tell that you're making spiritual advancement just because you feel deep joy inside your heart. Isn't that incredible? You feel this deep joy inside your heart and you think, oh, that must be, oh, so Krishna must be pleased then. Isn't it? It's an incredible process. When you're feeling transcendental joy, it means that Krishna is pleased with you. Oh, I'm feeling this deep joy. Krishna must be pleased with what I'm doing. Wow, that's amazing. So please, ladies and gentlemen, we have to take full advantage of this mercy. We have to take full advantage. Don't wait. Because otherwise what happens is you turn around and, before you know it, you're at the moment of death. Isn't it? Before we know it. You see this. All of us have seen this. Time flies. You turn around. One moment you were a child, carefree. In the blink of an eye, suddenly you're an adult. You can still remember your childhood. You can still remember playing at school. You can still remember being very carefree and having someone else take care of everything for you. And now suddenly you turn around, suddenly you're an adult. And then again, one day, suddenly you'll turn around and you'll be at the time of death. So it is what we do between this moment and the moment that we leave, which is going to make the big difference. We're very, very, very fortunate. What you have in your hands, money cannot buy. It's a real point. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to repeat this. What we have in our hands, money cannot buy. And everyone in this world who would be even your billionaires, etc., if they knew what you had, they would trade all of their billions for what you have, because the billions that they're getting or pursuing is only for one thing, is only for joy. Imagine someone said to you, I'm gonna make you a deal. I will give you £1 billion on the condition that you sign a contract, which means that no matter how you spend the money, you allow me by some magic to make sure that you never get any joy from any of the money that you're spending or any of the activities that you do. Right? So I'm going to make you that deal. I'll give you £1 billion as long as you sign a contract, and that contract is a magical contract that means that you're going to get £1 billion, and you'll sign the contract. And the moment you sign that contract, you will never be able to get any joy from all the money that you're spending. So you can have the money, but no internal joy. Would you do it? No one would do it. So the money is not the thing. You're looking for the joy. You see? The resources are not the thing. You're looking for the joy. The fame is not the thing. You're looking for the joy. All of these things that people do it's not about that. They're looking for the joy. So this is Krishna consciousness. It is an incredible opportunity, but we often don't notice how incredible the opportunity is. And because we don't notice how incredible the opportunity is, this is how you can tell. This is how you can tell someone doesn't understand how incredible an opportunity is. You can tell by one thing. The one thing that you can look at to see if people understand the opportunity they've been given is to see to what degree they take advantage of it. When you see someone who does not take advantage of a great opportunity, it means that they do not understand how great the opportunity is. You see? That's what you can look for. So anyone can talk. Anyone can say, yes, I love Krishna consciousness. It's a great opportunity. But if you believe it, that will be shown by what you do. You see? So anyone who does not take advantage of this opportunity means that they don't understand what they've been given. That really is how the process works. And this is why it's so important when we come together to remind each other, to read together, to reflect together, to chant together. And in that way, remember, oh my God, I've got this amazing opportunity to become free of suffering forever. My spiritual master used to say, if you think about it, whatever price you need to pay in order to do what? In order, not only in this lifetime, but even when you leave the body forever, for eternity, to be in a transcendental existence where you are always unlimitedly, eternally happy and unlimitedly experiencing love forever. Not just love, different varieties of love. Every relationship with Krishna, every exchange, every mealtime, every conversation is unlimitedly fresh, new, exciting, adventurous, romantic. To experience that forever and to experience a state where you're completely free of suffering forevermore and you never suffer again materially. Whatever price we have to pay for that kind of outcome is more than worth it. It's more than worth it. So this is the gift that Prabhupada has given. This is the gift that Prabhupada has given. And if we want to take advantage of it, it simply requires us to really understand, my gosh, hold on, hold up. Wow, I'm being given the chance to be in eternal ecstasy forever. Wow. I'm being given the chance to stop suffering birth, old age, disease, death again forever. Wow. I'm being given the chance to never have to go through any suffering of the body and mind, right? Adhyatmika. To never have to suffer any kind of like mistreatment from anyone else, adibhotika. To never have to suffer any kind of external situations, including coronavirus, forever, right? Adidaivika. I'm being given the chance to completely clear all debts, all karmic debts, and to step into the land of eternal love forever. Wow. So take advantage of this opportunity. Okay. So when we'll stop for questions, how much time do we have for questions?
Prabhuji, I think we can take the questions from now for 20 minutes. We usually stop, but today we'll get some more grace. So there's already a question on the chat. Prabhuji, I can read it out for you. We are performing bhakti with material senses, yet Krishna will only be pleased when the action is done for him. How can we use our material sense, which are attached to, sorry, Prabhuji. How can we use, which are attached to sense gratification and are contaminated to please the Lord, as the tendency for one's gratification will always remain, even if we try to put Krishna first.
Okay.
Me first, Krishna second.
Well, see, that's not exactly true. The tendency for one's gratification will not always, for one's material gratification will not always remain. We have to remember, we're not material beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a material experience. This material life is unnatural for us. It's unnatural for the soul. We think, okay, I'm a conditioned person and I'm trying to become Krishna conscious. No, you're a Krishna conscious person who's trying to let go of the material, unnatural behaviors. You see, and that's not just us. Everyone, The most hardcore atheist is a spiritual person who is suffering from this amnesia, this forgetfulness of Krishna. And because of that, he or she is suffering. Right? So think about it. You see a homeless person on the street. These instances like this have occurred in history. There's some homeless person on the street and people are just going by and they maybe spit at the person, look down on the person. Someone looks at that homeless person and thinks, hold on, I recognize this person. And then it turns out that that homeless person is the son of some kind of multi-millionaire, multi-billionaire. And so that homeless person suffered from some kind of amnesia, you know? They'd suffered from some kind of amnesia. I'll give you a better example, actually. I remember many, many years ago. So when I was very young, I had a childminder. I used to stay with this family sometimes. They like just after school, they pick me up and then my parents would come and collect me. And to be honest, I remember in that family, it was a brother and sister. They were the children. One brother, I think it was just one brother, maybe two sisters. I can't remember exactly. But the youngest sister, she was very rude. She used to shout at her parents, be rude to them. And the parents, they were strong people. They were strong people. I think they were, you know, they probably were Christian. And I just had the feeling, even then I thought, I don't know if this is going to keep going, if this is going to be able to keep, this relationship's going to keep going between that daughter and her parents because of the way she treated them. And you know what was amazing? Many years later, I remember, I think I was coming back from the temple. I was on public transport, coming back from the temple. Either I was coming or I was going to the temple, one or the other. And I saw that girl on the bus. She'd grown up, but she was not in a good space. She was in a really bad state, you know? And I remember thinking, what she's done, she had alienated herself from the very people who were her shelter. And because she'd rejected the people who had been providing for her, who were her shelter, I mean, if you saw her, she actually was begging me for money. That's what she was doing on the bus. You know, do you have some money? I want some money for some food. And I remember thinking, wow, you grew up with these parents, you have brothers and sisters, you had a home, you know, they supplied things for you, all of this kind of stuff. But then you rejected the very people who cared for you. And because of that, you put yourself into this homeless space. And I remember thinking, wow, this is the story of the living entity in relation to Krishna, right? We've rejected the very person who cares for us more than anyone else. And then having rejected that person, we're just in a very sorry space, a very sad space. It's an embarrassing space, actually. Very, very sad environment. So we have to remember that. And so that's the first one. So we're actually spirit souls, everyone's spirit soul. And that's the vision that we should see with actually. They're a spirit soul first. They're a servant of Krishna first, but they may be covered over. So therefore, we should understand that we will actually give up the desire for material sense gratification by acting naturally again. All that Krishna consciousness means is to act naturally again. So you should never think that I'm materially conditioned and I'm trying to be spiritual. No, you're spiritual and you're trying to come back to your senses again. You see? Identity is such a big thing. How you see yourself and also making sure that that identity is true, you know, is real. That will transform us, you know? So two things we've talked about so far. One, remembering that actually our joy, it actually is inherently coming from Krishna being pleased with us, nowhere else. And I'm not talking about stimulation. You can do anything that stimulates you. That's just material. But what I'm talking about is when you feel deep joy, when you feel in your heart deeply satisfied, oh, my heart feels content. When you feel that deep fullness in the heart, that's because Krishna is pleased with something that you're doing. So if you want more of that, hear the Bhagavatam, serve sincerely, chant sincerely, surrender in Krishna consciousness. The more you surrender in that deep way, the more you get that joy. And who says that? Krishna says that. Yeyatamam prapadyante, tam sateva bhajamyaham, mama vatmanuvatate manusya pavasavashaha. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Krishna says it. It's not me saying it. Who am I? I don't say it. Krishna says it. And we've experienced it. You all have experienced it. You've seen in your life, when you try to be actually sincerely Krishna conscious, you have this indescribable joy in your heart. And you feel, oh, this feels so good. This is what I'm looking for. So, to the point about sense gratification, no, it will be given up. The sense gratification is unnatural. Param drispa nivartate. That we will give up the sense gratification as we experience a higher taste. Okay, so that's the first point. I'll just see anything else about that first question. Yeah, and the other thing is, don't worry about things being contaminated or not. Try to serve sincerely, because what's behind this question, and this is a misconception, is that we think that we have to make ourselves Krishna conscious. No one can make us Krishna, no one can make themselves Krishna conscious. What we have to do is take the medicine, and the medicine is Krishna. If we take the medicine of Krishna in the form of his holy name, in the form of the Bhagavatam, and do it with the sincere mood, in the form of the Guru, if we do it sincerely, then by his potency we'll become pure. Not by our strength, but by his grace we'll become pure. So don't think that you have to make yourself pure. Think that I have to sincerely take the medicine, and because the medicine is potent, it is the medicine that's curing me, not that I'm doing it by my own strength. Yeah. And then the one last thing I'll share is that because we're part and parcel of Krishna, we actually get a joy by him being pleased. So ultimately, we won't put ourselves first. Actually, you could put it another way. You could say that real self-interest is selfless service to Krishna. Yeah, that's how we experience joy. That's how we experience fullness, fulfillment. There's no other way. There's no other way. There's no other way. Okay, I'll take the next question.
Hare Krishna. The next question, Prabhuji, is Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. You had said that in the material world, we do things harder for material things, but get lesser. But the same thing we do in spiritual things, pleasing Krishna, we do little, we get more and more benefit. Although quite opposites, but completely different results. Yeah. How do you understand this practically, Prabhuji?
Yeah, no, so it's as I explained. See, for example, one thing that people experience a lot in the material world is boredom. You see, for example. So, you know, you bought some car because, you know, that was, oh no, let's give a better example. You got a beard because that's fashionable for men to have a beard right now, okay? Okay, so you got a beard. But you know what, after a while, you got bored of the beard. And all your friends who had a beard, they also got bored of the beard. So the beard no longer made them happy, right? You bought a house, or you bought a new phone, a smartphone, right? But you bought the new Apple iPhone because that was the new technology. But after you bought it, you got bored. So you know that nothing that you bought gave you any lasting happiness. And actually, the thing that you bought yesterday, not only did it lose interest, did you lose interest, but it can even cause you to be frustrated later on. You know? So it doesn't, material things, they always wear, the feeling wears down, wears away. And that's actually being generous. There are many things that people do materially, which actually not only loses interest, but can even addict them. You know, take cigarette smoking, for example. Most people, when they first start smoking cigarettes, they hate it. It doesn't taste nice. They're coughing up, you know, their lungs are inflamed, but they just keep forcing themselves to do it. And then when I was studying at college. We studied cigarette advertising. And what they showed us is that cigarette adverts have to be bright and attractive and use bright colors in many cases, not all, but in many cases, they have to look bright and attractive and use bright colors. Why? Because the people who smoke cigarettes are constantly dying from cigarette-related illnesses. So the adverts are designed to attract young people so that the young people will be hooked. So you get a new audience of people who smoke cigarettes. So the very thing that's causing the person seemingly to do something because they think they're going to get some joy from it is the thing that can often kill them. You know, people who get addicted to drugs. And then now they can't stop doing those drugs. So they first pursued the drugs. Now the drug is pursuing them. You see? Now the drug is actually killing them. They got in contact with something that's actually now enslaving them. They had freedom. They got in touch with something materialistic, something negative, and therefore their freedom was ripped away. And now, so some people there, when they're addicted to drugs, you know, they're stealing, they're committing crimes, they're damaging their own body just to get a quick drug, and they can't control themselves anymore. And if you ask them, do you want to stop taking drugs? They'll say, I'd love to stop, but I can't. So this is what I mean. That the material thing, it actually can cause the person to be a slave. And there's many different intensities of slavery. So drugs is one type of thing, but even the smartphone, even the people who are addicted to going online all the time and they can't stop looking at their smartphone, it's a type of addiction. We actually lose our free will. And what isn't said, but what is true, is as that free will becomes lost, the person becomes more and more down, more and more depressed, more and more ashamed and guilty of themselves, because they find that they can't control their own life, they can't control their own self, and because of that, they can't even control their own human relationships. Imagine, if you lose control of yourself, how will your relationships work? How can a relationship work when you can't control yourself? So this is what I mean. It's a very, very negative downward spiral. So the intelligent thing is to not even go into that downward spiral in the first place. But again, Krishna says, param drisva nivartate. The way to avoid going down is that we have to consciously go up. The way to avoid becoming a little material and therefore more material is to make the conscious endeavor to become more and more Krishna conscious. You see, we have to have a positive substitute for the negative. Okay, so that answers your question.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. There's another question from Priya Mataji. Hare Krishna, Bhuta Bhavana, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for this class. If we are practicing bhakti and trying to please Krishna, but we are not experiencing joy, we may be miserable or notice we are becoming hard-hearted. What are some examples of where we are going wrong and how can we overcome this?
Very great question. And this is exactly Vyasadev's dilemma. And so we overcome it in the same way that Vyasadeva did. There's a few things to note that Vyasadeva did. First of all, he was introspective. You see? So he was actually thinking to himself, I've done this, and he did an inventory. So as it's a beautiful verse for this purpose, you know, in relation to your question. He said, and this is what we've been reading, verse 1, 4, 28, 29. I've under strict discipline, so I've been strict, followed my vows with discipline. So I did that properly. I worship purely the spiritual master and the altar of sacrifice. So this is almost like a checklist for us, right? So are we practicing regulated devotional service, disciplined devotional service, right? That could be one thing. Sometimes people are unhappy because they're not practicing consistently, right? And then what does Vyasadeva say after that? He says, I unpretentiously worship the Vedas. So when we're doing service, Are we doing it sincerely? Or are we doing it with some other, are we pretending, doing it like a performance, doing it for attention? So that's another thing. Am I doing it genuinely, authentically, right? That's another thing that Vyasadeva mentions here. He says, I worship the spiritual master. Now, this is very important because he will turn to Narada Muni for guidance. When we're not feeling something, do we turn to our gurus, our seniors, our mentors, the devotees? Do we say, you know, I'm not feeling satisfied. I'm trying to figure out, what am I doing wrong? You know, you're my friend, you're a devotee, you know me. What do you think I could improve on? You know, do we do that? Do we reach out? I do that a lot. I reach out to devotees that I know and I'll ask them for feedback. What do you think I need to be doing differently? And then I'll also pray to my spiritual master, to Prabhupada, to Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. You know, what do I need to improve? What can I do to please you? You know, so do we do that? Because that can help us to understand if there's something that we can improve on. Now, I will also say that if we're relatively new to Krishna consciousness, sometimes what happens is we're not experiencing deep joy straight away, but that doesn't mean that the process isn't working. Because sometimes it takes a while for us to experience that joy because we're so covered by so much material energy before we came, you see? That is why in the Nectar of Instruction, it talks about 6 principles which are favorable for devotional service. And amongst those 6, there is patience. You know, Prabhupada sometimes gives the example. He said, just like a mother becomes pregnant, she can't expect that, oh, I'm pregnant, what, you know, where's the kid? No, it takes 9 months. You know, it takes time as well. You know, it's just like you want to clean a car which has been left out in the dirt, in the rain and bad weather for 10 years. So now I want the car to be clean, but because there's so much dirt on the car, it takes a while before the car starts to look clean. But that doesn't mean that the car isn't being clean. It is being clean. It's just that I can't see how clean it is immediately because there's so many layers to take off, you know? So sometimes it can take time. The other thing is, and this is why it's important to check with our own, you know, guides, mentors, and so on, is sometimes it can be because we're not engaging in devotional service properly. For example, maybe I'm not experiencing joy because I'm being offensive to other devotees. So I'm doing the activities which I should do, but I'm also doing things that I shouldn't be doing, which is then blocking the effect. You know, so that's something to watch out for as well, you know, but there's always hope. There's always hope. And that comes especially, there's one more thing, sorry, before I forget. Sometimes also, we're doing devotional service, we are doing it sincerely, but we're maybe not engaging in certain activities that would particularly inspire us. So on the weekend, I was in a kirtan. Today's Monday. Yes, it was just yesterday. And it was such a great kirtan. I mean, honestly, I left the kirtan and I just thought, yeah, you feel like you've had the shower, spiritual shower, you know? So you have to consider what could be the cause and then what can I do? And then use your own reflection, but then also speak to those who know you, especially your guides, and get their ideas on things you can try. And sometimes Krishna will help you, meaning that you'll try one thing and you feel, yeah, there's a bit of an improvement. And then you'll try something else like, oh, it's really getting better now. You know, some devotees, they're doing devotional service, but because they sleep long hours, right? Then because of that extra sleeping, they bring a lot of mode of ignorance in. And therefore they don't necessarily feel the full benefit of their spiritual life. Whereas if they actually were a bit more in the mode of goodness, then they would be able to start to feel, wow, this is really working. Wow. You know, some devotees, they're doing well, but what they need to do is associate more with more advanced devotees. And when they associate more with more advanced devotees, then they become stronger and more and feel more bliss in their spiritual life. So it's different for different people, actually. So with good association, with revealing the mind, with taking guidance, you'll understand what specific things you need to be doing. And again, we should be patient because sometimes it can take some time, you know, but patiently moving in the right direction means that we will experience that satisfaction that we're looking for. Do we have another question?
Yes, Prabhuji, there is a comment. That's powerful. It's by mercy of Guru and Vaishnavas that we get some purity, not personal endeavor.
Yeah, but I will add to that. The personal endeavor has to be there to get their mercy. Yeah, but the personal endeavor our personal endeavor doesn't get the result directly. Our personal endeavor has to please Guru, Krishna, Vaishnavas, and when they're pleased, Krishna automatically showers mercy upon us. If you want a reference for that, that's mentioned in the purport of the Bhagavatam, 8th canto, chapter 15, text number 28. In that particular purport, Prabhupada says specifically, the mercy of the spiritual master is more powerful than our personal endeavor for such advancement. He actually states that directly in 8th canto, chapter 15, text number 28. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Are there any other questions or comments? I know we have exhausted our time. It's 9:20 here. Prabhuji, there are no more questions, but our mentors for the ISKCON Eldoret are also here. We have Mansi Ganga Mataji, we have Path Prabhuji, we have Govinda Prabhuji and Lavanga Prabhuji. Everybody is here to guide us. And thank you very much for this class. Prabhuji, I'll hand over to Path Prabhuji, who will close the session. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Path Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for your nice and wonderful class. Also, you mentioned the very nice point about the happiness, how is true happiness. There's a key factors like Vyasdeva, for they make them happy, all the Sudra, Dija Bandhu and the Stri, so that he divided the Vedas in the four parts. Also, he wrote Puranas and Mahabharata for the easy understanding, so that they can know the religious progress, religious path. So the main thing is the happiness. So you also explain the key rules, giving the key points, how you're supposed to be happy in your life, in your devotional service. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for your nice class, also for your time. Also, I thanks all the devotees who joined across in this platform, giving their time and attention to make success this session. Thanks very much. I supposed to request all the devotees, please unmute yourself and chant Hare Krishna mantra for glorification of His grace, Bhuta Bhavana Prabhuji. Please join everyone.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Vancha Kalpa
Patitanam
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhuta Bhavana Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Can
Hare
we take
Krishna.
this opportunity to invite you to Kenya, Prabhuji?
Come.
I'd love to have your association here, not virtually, but now physically,
We'll come.
if an opportunity arises. And if you have the time, we would like you to join this group as well. So
My
depending
maybe
on
a little
available.
bit busy, but I will definitely come and visit.
Yes, I can understand, but whenever you have time, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu, you're breathtaking. It was a wonderful class. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare